Spirit of Texas, Unit 3, Early Prehistoric Indians. Prehistory covers a very long time. All the time the earth and man existed before man began recording the world around him using words. Some societies began using decodable, written language very early. Thus we know much more about Europe and the Middle East since we can refer to their writings, thousands of years old. These early records could be studied to help us better understand the environment and lifestyles of men during a particular period. Unfortunately, the relics left by Native Americans who lived in today's Texas and over the American continents are much more limited, and there are no written documents available until the Europeans arrived and recorded their observations in the 1500s. Archaeologists study the available relics and devise theories about the prehistoric Indians' lives. They believe these early Americans lived in caves or shelters made of brush, rock, or animal skin. Rock paintings still exist today in rock shelters and overhangs, especially in the lower Pecos area. During the Ice Age, the main source of food was meat, so people were constantly on the move hunting for mammoth, mastodons, giant armadillos and sloths, saber-toothed tigers, native camels, or bison. While meat was their main source of protein, prehistoric Indians consumed some types of plants as well. Wheels did not exist in this part of the world, so individuals walked and carried supplies themselves or with the help of domesticated dogs. Edible plants were limited, therefore the people gathered what they could find. We call these nomads hunter-gatherers because that is how they lived to survive. Spears and addle spear-throwing sticks were used to bring down large game. Stone tools were then used to chop and scrape the remains for food, shelter, clothing, and tools. After the Ice Age, when the earth began to warm, many of the larger animals became extinct. The Indians living at this time hunted for smaller-sized game such as rabbits, deer, rodents, snakes, birds, and fish. They continued to use spears with an assortment of points which varied by region. Chert, or flint, was chipped into fine points to use on both the end of the spear and later on arrows. The Indians also continued to gather what was likely a larger variety of edible plants to supplement their diet. They would often find and prepare prickly pear cactus, Texas persimmons, lechuguilla bulbs, and nuts. Some metates and manos were used to grind some of this food into a fine flour-like powder, and meals were usually cooked on rock mounds. Eventually, some groups found land suited for farming and began to plant seeds and start an agricultural society. Early gardens frequently included maize, corn, pumpkins, beans, and squash. As time went on, some tribes began to trade their goods with other groups who perhaps lived nearby. One of these groups, the late prehistoric Caddos, were peaceful farmers who created woven baskets and clay bowls valuable for trading. Large, flat-topped mounds built as a foundation for large wooden temples have also given the Caddo a unique place in history. Interestingly, about every 80 years, the temples were burned to the ground. More earth was carried to the mound in baskets, and a new layer was added to support a new temple. You can visit and learn more about these fascinating people at Caddo Mound State Historic Site in East Texas. Finally, as we begin our study of Texas Indians, it is important to remember this. Before the Europeans arrived, Native Americans were plentiful, perhaps millions of individuals living in North America by 1500 AD. Their rich culture and contribution to this country were influential long before they met European colonists and incoming settlers. As we study the primary Texas tribes, remember also their impressive ability to adapt and change as the world changed around them.